High above the violet skies of Krillin Prime, the great towers of the Grand Conclave rose like frozen lightning. The air hummed with silent thoughts, not spoken, but felt. Minds of ancient alien species linked through light and energy, making decisions that shaped galaxies. This was the heart of the intergalactic concord, a union of beings so advanced they had forgotten what it meant to struggle. And in a small side chamber, lit only by the soft glow of warning screens, stood one small figure in a plain gray suit. Her name was Ilara Voss. She was human. She didn't shine like the crystals and she didn't float like the mist like Vaith. She didn't speak in riddles like the serpent Orcith. She just stood there, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the star map in front of her. A faded patch on her shoulder showed a blue planet wrapped in white clouds Earth, a world most aliens had never heard of, and even fewer cared about. On the screen, red dots blinked, each one a missing ship. 7 now. No distress calls, no wreckage, just gone. Swallowed by the Orion Rift. A twisted scar in space, where even light bent the wrong way. Ilara had asked for help, again and again, but the Concorde moved slow, too slow. Commander Voss, came a voice like broken glass. Ambassador Thrall appeared, his body shifting like shattered mirrors. Your request is denied. The Concorde will not risk ships for what may be a natural collapse. It's not natural, Ilara said, not turning. Something is out there, and it's growing. Your sensors are primitive, Thrall replied coldly. Your species sees monsters in shadows. You fear what you do not understand. Ilara finally looked at him. We fear because we care. When a ship vanishes, we don't just say statistical loss. We remember the names, the faces, the families waiting for someone who will never come home. Thrall tilted his form. Emotion is weakness. It clouds judgment. Maybe, Ilara said, softly. But it's also why we keep going. She turned back to the screen. Her fingers brushed the earth patch on her suit. She remembered her sister, lost in the Mars colony disaster. No one had come then. No grand alliance. Just silence. And grief. Now. History was repeating. Behind her. The view screen showed the Milky Way, a pale swirl in the dark. Sol Station, humanity's last outpost, hung at the edge of the unknown. Small, alone, fragile, and no one was coming to help. A young alien clerk passed by, glancing at her. Why do you even try? It asked. They will never listen. Ilara didn't answer at first. Then she smiled, small, tired, but unbroken. Because someone has to, she said. If not us, then who? She thought of the people on Sol Station. Children, workers, families. Not soldiers, not warriors, just people, living, hoping, dreaming, under the same stars as everyone else. And she thought of the ships that vanished. Not just metal and wires, but lives, laughter, love. The Concorde saw data. Humans saw people, and that made all the difference. She walked to the comms panel. Her fingers hovered over the transmit button. One message, one last plea, but not to the Concorde, to home. Her voice was quiet, but strong. This is Commander Ilara Voss of Earth. The Concorde won't act. The rift is moving. Sol Station is in danger. If anyone can hear this, we need help. She paused, then added, we're not asking for victory, just a chance to try. She sent the message. No fanfare, no echo, just silence. Somewhere, far away. A young engineer named Leo Tran heard it. A doctor named Mira Chen felt her heart beat faster. An old pilot named Jox Renner smiled and started his ship. Because when humans are backed into a corner, they don't give up. They don't run. They don't wait for permission. They rise. And though no alien in the Grand Conclave believed in them, though they were called weak, foolish, emotional, one truth burned in the dark. Asterisk, the Krillin Explorer was a ship of knowledge, not war. Shaped like a glowing diamond, It floated at the edge of the Orion Rift, scanning the twisted space with gentle pulses of light. Inside, 200 Xanthari minds shared one calm thought: understand, learn, record. Then, without sound, without warning, the stars bent. A dark shape, like a crown of broken night, rose from the rift. Not a ship, not a creature, something older, deeper. It didn't attack. It simply reached, and the Krillin explorer vanished. Not exploded, not torn apart, just erased from existence, like a whisper swallowed by wind, back on Krillin Prime. The news spread like ice through the Grand Conclave. Silence, then panic, quiet, hidden, but real, in the central chamber. The alien leaders gathered. High Speaker Vera, a being of swirling gas, floated above the council floor. "This confirms it," she whispered. "The rift is unstable, a quantum collapse. We must pull back all forces. Evacuate the frontier. Evacuate." Ilara, Voss stepped forward, her voice sharp in the stillness. "That means leaving 12 million people behind. Families, children, entire worlds." "Better 12 million than billions," said Minister Sashal of the Orcith, his long body coiling like smoke. "Your sentimentality blinds you, human. Survival is not about saving all. It is about saving enough." Ilara stared at them, at their perfect logic, their cold eyes, their hearts that had forgotten how to beat too fast. She thought of the farms on Salthri, where kids played under artificial suns, of the miners on Titan 7, who sang old Earth songs, in the dark, of the school on Luna, where a teacher still wrote, "We are stardust on the board," every morning. They weren't just numbers, they were alive, and no one here seemed to care. "I'm going in," Ilara said, her voice calm but firm. "The Odyssey, one ship. We'll enter the rift, scan the anomaly, and return. No weapons, no aggression, just truth." A ripple of disbelief passed through the room. "Your ship is ancient," said Thrall. "Your shields cannot withstand quantum shear. You will die in seconds." "Then we die," Ilara said. "But we'll die trying, not sitting here, hiding behind rules, while people vanish." The chamber buzzed. Some laughed, some sighed. A few stayed silent. Finally, Vera spoke. "Let them go. Let them fail. Then the Concord can act, without guilt." It wasn't permission, it was a sentence. But Ilara didn't flinch. She turned and walked out, her boots tapping on the crystal floor, a slow, steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. Back on the Odyssey, the crew waited. Jax Renner, the engineer, wiped grease from his hands. "So, we're really doing this?" Ilara nodded. "We have to know what's out there." Mira Chen, the scientist, adjusted her glasses. "If it's not a natural event, then what is it?" "I don't know," Ilara said. "But fear doesn't eat ships. Something does." They prepared in silence. Not with grand speeches, but with small acts, checking straps, testing comes, sharing a flask of bitter coffee. Human things, as the Odyssey lifted off. A single message came through from Sol Station. "We believe in you. No name, no rank, just hope." Then, the jump. Space twisted. Stars blurred. The ship groaned like a living thing in pain, and then they were inside the rift. Outside, the universe looked wrong. Light bent in circles. Gravity pulled in two directions at once. The stars seemed to watch them. "Nothing natural does this," Jox whispered, gripping his seat. Mira scanned the data. Her breath caught. "Commander, I'm picking up patterns. Not random. Neural-like. A mind." Ilara's blood ran cold. "You're saying it's alive?" Before Mira could answer, the alarms screamed a massive energy spike right in front of them, and from the darkness, the crown-shaped void appeared. It didn't attack. It hovered, watching, feeling. Then, a broken signal crackled through the Cum's Sol Station. "Under attack, Concord ships, firing." Ilara heart stopped. Not the rift, not the dark thing. Their own allies were bombing humanity's last home. She looked at her crew jocks, scared but ready. Mira, pale but focused. They had come to face a monster in the dark, but the real enemy was not out here. It was back home, and it wore the face of logic without love. Elora clenched her fists. Her voice was quiet, but it carried fire. We're going back, not to run, to fight. And as the Odyssey turned toward home, the dark shape behind them did not follow. It nodded, as if it understood. Because sometimes, the bravest thing in the universe is not a weapon, it's a promise. The Odyssey shook like a leaf in a storm as it tore through the edge of the Orion Rift. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Alarms screamed. The air smelled of burnt metal and fear. But at the center of it all, Elara Voss stood firm, eyes locked, on the view screen. There, in the distance, hung Sol Station, and around it, War.Concord warships, sleek, silver, deadly, fired pulse after pulse into the old human outpost. Explosions bloomed like dark flowers in space. Shields flickered. One, then another, failed. A chunk of the station's outer rings spun into the void, silent and lifeless. No, Mira whispered, her hands frozen over the scanner. They're not just attacking. They're erasing us. Jock slammed his fist on the console. We're supposed to be allies. What happened? Elara didn't answer right away. Her throat was tight. On the screen, she saw the flag of Earth still flying above Sol Station, torn half melted, but still there. She remembered standing under that same flag as a child, singing the anthem, promising to protect it. Now, it was under fire from the very alliance humanity had begged to join. This isn't about the rift, she said, voice low. They're making us the enemy, so they don't have to face the real one. Mira turned to her. You think they knew? That they caused this? Maybe not at first, Elara said. But when things go wrong, the strong always blame the weak, and we're the weakest in their eyes. Jox looked at the damage. We can't win this. We're one ship, broken, against a fleet. Elara turned to her crew, not as their commander, as one of them. No, she said. We can't win if we fight like them. She pointed at the screen. They move in perfect lines, cold, calculated, no mistakes. But they also have no heart, no memory, no love for the people they're supposed to protect. She stepped forward. We do. Her voice grew stronger. They think we're weak because we care, because we cry, because we fight. For one life, not just the numbers. But that's not weakness. That's power. The kind they'll never understand. Mira wiped her eyes. So what do we do? Elara took a breath. We go home, not to fight a fleet, to save our people. And if the Concord won't see the truth, we'll make them feel it. The Odyssey plunged toward Sol Station, engines screaming, hull cracked, but flying. Inside, the crew worked like one body. Jox rerouted power from non-essential systems, feeding every drop of energy into engines and life support. Mira opened a wideband channel, not to the Concord, but to every human ship, every station, every soul in range. This is Dr. Myra Chen, she said, voice shaking but clear. The Odyssey is returning. We saw the rift. We saw the truth. And we're not letting go. If you can hear this, hold on. Across the system, humans heard. On a cargo hauler named Hope's Last, an old pilot named Ruiz fired up his rusted engines. On a mining platform, a dozen workers grabbed tools and turned them into weapons. In a school on Lunafy, a teacher told her students, stay calm, help is coming. Because when humans are in trouble, they don't wait for orders, they answer the call. Back on the Odyssey, Elara stood at the front, watching Sol Station grow larger. She saw the damage, the fear, the fire, but she also saw the lights tiny, flickering, but on. People still alive, still fighting, still hoping, and then something strange. Behind them, At the edge of the rift, the dark shape appeared again. The crown of shadows. The thing they had feared. It didn't attack. It followed. Mira gasped. It's coming with us. Jock stared. Is it protecting us? Ilara watched it glide through space like a silent guardian. No, she whispered. It's not protecting us. She smiled, small, but full of wonder. It's trusting us. In that moment, she understood. This being wasn't a monster. It had been alone, trapped, hurting, and when all the advanced aliens ignored it, humans had reached out, not with weapons, not with scans, but with music, with kindness, with a lullaby. And now, it was coming to help. The Odyssey dropped into formation near Sol Station. Behind it, one strange ally. Around it, a growing fleet of human ships. Small and broken, but flying. Ilara opened the comms. This time, she spoke to the Concord. This ends now. We are not your mistake. We are not your sacrifice. We are human, and we are home. Silence then. From the enemy fleet, a single ship powered down its weapons. It was a Xanthari cruiser, and on the channel, a familiar voice spoke, Commander Voss. It was Threll. His voice once cold, now trembled. We were wrong. Ilara didn't cheer. She didn't shout. She just said, it's not too late to do the right thing. And as the first human ship fired, not to destroy, but to shield a drifting escape pod, the stars above burned a little brighter, because in all the galaxies, only one species could turn a moment of desperinto, a reason to believe. Asterisk, the battle around Sol Station didn't roar. It screamed. Plasma bolts ripped through the dark. Ships spun, broken, into the void. The air inside the Odyssey was thick with smoke and sweat. Warnings flashed red. Power dropped to 40%. But no one sat down. No one gave up. Because outside, humanity was fighting. Not for glory, not for revenge, but for each other. On the bridge, Ilara Voss stood like a rock in a storm. Her face was streaked with soot, her hands steady on the command rail. She didn't shout orders. She spoke calm, clear, like a lighthouse in the dark. Jocks, can we boost the comms signal? I want every human to hear us. Jocks, his sleeve torn, an arm bleeding, grinned through the pain. Give me 30 seconds and a prayer. He slammed a broken wire into place, sparked it with a tool, and muttered, Come on, old girl. Don't die now. The ship groaned, then the speakers crackled, to life across the system. This is Commander Ilara Voss, she said. We saw what's out there. We faced the unknown, and we came back, not to run, but to stand. Look around you. See your brothers, your sisters, your neighbors. They're not waiting. They're fighting, and so are we. Her voice didn't shake, it burned. We are not the fastest, not the strongest, but we are here. We are alive, and we will not be erased. Across the battlefield, humans heard. On the Hope's last, Pilot Ruiz wiped his eyes and turned his cargo hauler straight into a Vaith drone swarm. For Earth, he whispered, then fired on a drifting medpod. Young Ensign Leo Tran pulled a wounded engineer inside, sealing the hatch with his own belt. You're not dying today, he said. Not on my watch. And on the scarred hull of Sol Station, Lieutenant Kira Moss stood in a broken airlock, firing a jury-rigged pulse rifle at his Xanthari dropship. Her suit was cracked. Her oxygen alarm beeped. But she didn't move, because behind her, 100 children were running to shelter, and someone had to hold the line. Inside the Odyssey, Mira watched the sensors. Her breath caught. Rapidity. It's moving. On the screen. The dark crown of shadows twisted through space, not attacking, but pushing. Gravity bent around the Concord warships. Engines failed. Shields flickered. One by one, the alien ships lost power, not destroyed, but disabled. It's not fighting them, Mira said, amazed. It's stopping them. Jox laughed, half hysterical. It's helping us. That thing, Elora smiled. It's not a thing. It's a friend. She remembered the lullaby Mira had sent, the silence that followed. Then the soft pulse of light, like a heartbeat in reply. No alien in the Concord had tried to understand it. They saw danger. Humans saw pain, and that made all the difference. Far above, in the command chamber of the lead Centauri dreadnought, Ambassador Thrall stood frozen. His screens showed chaos, not from weapons, but from truth. Human ships weren't forming perfect attack patterns. They weren't calculating odds. They were doing something worse. They were inspiring. He watched a tiny maintenance pod. No weapons, no shields. Block a plasma blast meant for a refugee shuttle. The pod exploded, but the shuttle lived. Why? Thrall whispered. Why? Die for strangers. A junior officer, young and uncertain, looked up. Maybe, because they're not strangers to them. Thrall's form flickered. For the first time in centuries, he felt something cold and heavy in his core. Shame. He opened a private channel. His voice, once proud and cold, now trembled. Commander Voss, we see you. We see what you are doing. And we were wrong. Elara didn't gloat. She didn't say I told you so. She simply replied, then stop shooting. Help us save the ones still alive. Silence. Then one by one, the Concord warships powered down their weapons. Lights dimmed. Cannons retracted. The battle didn't end with a blast. It ended with a pause, a breath, a choice. On Sol Station, Kira Moss lowered her rifle. She looked around. Smoke, ruin, but also movement. People helping the wounded, pulling survivors from rubble, sharing water, holding hands. A child ran to her, eyes wide. Are we safe? Kira knelt, wiped her face, and smiled. Yeah, we're safe. Behind her, the Rift Entity hovered like a silent guardian, not threatening, not leaving, watching, protecting, and in that moment, Elara knew this wasn't just a victory. It was a turning point. The Concord had thought humans were weak because they felt too much, but now, they had seen what that meant. It meant a pilot flying into fire to save a school, a scientist sending a song to a monster and making a friend, a soldier standing in the dark, refusing to step back. It meant love in the face of fear, hope in the middle of ruin, and courage, not because it was easy, but because it was right. As the first rescue ships moved in, Elara looked out at the stars, at the broken fleet, at the humans still standing, and she whispered words that would echo far beyond that day. His Saddlefield was quiet now. Not peaceful, quiet. The kind of silence that comes after screaming, after fire, after too much loss. Wrecked ships floated like dead birds in the dark. Sol Station hung broken in orbit. One side melted, lights flickering, like tired hearts. Smoke curled from open hatches. Rescue pods darted between debris, searching for survivors. And across it all, the Rift Entity hovered, not attacking, not leaving just watching. Inside the Odyssey, the crew sat in exhausted silence. Jox leaned against a sparking console, his arm wrapped in a torn shirt. Mira stared at her scanner, eyes red, fingers still moving, checking, confirming, caring. Elara stood at the front, her back straight, but her breath slow, like she was holding the weight of the world. No one spoke. They didn't need to. They had fought. They had survived. But the cost was written in the silence. Somewhere out there, Pilot Ruiz was gone. A dozen unnamed engineers, medics who ran into fire to save one more life, children who never made it to shelter. Victory didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival, and survival always leaves scars. On Sol Station, Kira Moss walked through the ruined corridor of Sector 7. Her boots crunched on broken glass. The air was cold. The lights flickered. She passed a classroom, desks overturned, a chalkboard with half-erased math problems, A child's drawing still pinned to the wall. My family, Earth, stars, peace. She stopped, took it down, folded it gently, put it in her pocket. Later, someone would ask why. She wouldn't have an answer, only that it mattered, down in the med bay. Leo Tran helped carry a wounded girl to a cot. Her leg was burned. Her eyes were scared. "Hey," Leo said softly, holding her hand. "I'm here. You're safe." She looked at him. "Are you a soldier?" He shook his head. "Just a guy who didn't want to see you hurt." She squeezed his hand. And for the first time since the attack began, she smiled. Back on the Odyssey, the Cums crackled. It was Threll. His voice was different now, not cold, not proud, humbled. "Commander Voss, we are standing down. All Concord forces have ceased fire. We are opening medical channels, sending aid." Ilara didn't respond at first. She looked at her crew, at the broken ship, at the humans still fighting to live just outside. Then she said, "Good." No anger, no triumph, just acceptance. Threll hesitated. We did not understand. We thought strength was in logic, in order, in control." He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was almost a whisper. "But you bleed, you cry, you break, and still you stand." "How?" Elara turned to the viewport, saw the stars, saw Earth, far away, a pale blue dot in the dark. "We stand," she said, "because we remember. We remember the ones we lost. We remember the ones we love, and we carry them with us every step." She looked at Mira, at Jox, at the photo Leo kept in his pocket, at the song Mira played for a being from another world. "We don't fight for glory," she said. "We fight so no one has to face the dark alone." Threll was silent for a long time. Then, across the channel, a sound no one expected. Applause, soft at first, then louder. From Zenthari, from Vaith, from Orcith. Not clapping with hands. They didn't have them. But with light, with sound, with pulses of energy. A salute to the humans, to the weak, who did not break, to the small, who stood tall. Later, as rescue ships arrived, and medics moved through the wreckage, Mira stepped onto the observation deck. The rift entity floated nearby, silent. She took a deep breath, opened a private channel, played the lullaby again. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." For a moment, nothing. Then, a soft pulse from the entity. A single note echoed back. Not perfect, but felt. Myra smiled. Tears fell. "You're not alone," she whispered. "You never were." And far above, as the first rays of Sol's light touched the broken station, something beautiful happened. Humans and aliens worked side by side. No uniforms, no flags, just hands, pulling, lifting, healing. A Zenthari medic used its light field to stabilize a human child. A Vaith cloud shared oxygen with a wounded pilot. An Orcith engineer helped restart Sol Station's power core with a human child handing him tools. No speeches, no grand promises, just help, because in the end, it wasn't weapons or speed or logic that saved them. It was something older, something deeper, care. And as the sun rose over the ruins, Elara stood at the edge of the broken hull, watching the stars fade, watching her people rise, and whispered a truth the universe had forgotten. The sun rose over Sol Station, not the golden dawn of a planet, but the slow, quiet light of a new beginning. Smoke still curled from broken hulls. Rescue drones buzzed like bees through the wreckage. The air inside the station was cold, thin, and tasted of metal and sweat, but it was breathable. And where there is breath, there is hope. In the central dome, once the command hub, now half destroyed, a small crowd gathered, not for ceremony, not for speeches, but for something no one had ever seen before. A meeting, not between armies, not between enemies, but between people. Ilara Voss stood at one side. In her torn gray suit, the earth patch still on her shoulder. Her face was tired, her eyes heavy, but her back was straight. Behind her stood Jox, leaning on a metal pole, arm in a sling. Mira, holding a datapad like it was the last piece of truth in the universe. And Kira Moss, her uniform burned at the edges, but her chin high. On the other side stood the leaders of the Concord. Threll, his crystal form dimmed, no longer sharp and proud, but humbled. Veyra, her gas cloud body, gently pulsing like a heartbeat's. Coiled low, not in threat, but in respect. No weapons, no shields, no translators. The universal comms worked. But the silence between words spoke louder than any language. Ilara stepped forward. "We lost people," she said, voice quiet but clear. "Good ones. They didn't die in some great war. They died because someone decided we didn't matter." Threll did not look away. "We were wrong, not just in action, in thought. We believed logic alone could guide the stars. But you showed us something else." He paused, then, slowly, extended one of his shimmering limbs, not in salute, but in reach. "I would like to understand." Ilara looked at his hand, if it could be called a hand. A shifting shape of light and crystal, alien, unknown. She didn't hesitate. She took it. The moment their hands touched, something passed between them, not words, not data, but feeling. A pulse, a recognition. "I see you. I remember. I am sorry." Behind them, a human medic helped a Xanthari engineer walk. A Vaith cloud gently wrapped around a wounded child, sharing warmth. Sichel watched, then turned to a young human boy, holding a broken toy. Without a word, he used a small tool to fix it. Not perfectly, but enough. The boy looked up, smiled. Sichel didn't smile. His body couldn't, but his eyes softened. Later, in the ruins of the old Cum's room, Myra sat, with a group of alien scientists. On the table was a broken data core, the last recording from the Krillin Explorer. "We thought it was erased," said a Vaith researcher. "But your signal, it left a trace." Mira nodded. "We didn't just send data. We sent music, and pain, and hope, and somehow, it stuck." They played the recording at first, static. Then, faintly, a voice. Not Xanthari, not human, but something else. The rift entity. Its signal, shaped by the lullaby, now carried meaning. "It's not attacking," Mira whispered. "It was calling for help, for centuries, but no one listened, until we did." Jox, sitting nearby, laughed, weakly. "We're the dumbest species in the galaxy. Can't fly straight, shields fall apart, ships held together with wire and prayer." He looked around, "But we listen. That's our superpower." Kira walked in, holding a photo, the one she'd saved from the classroom. She pinned it to the wall. Around it, others began to appear. Drawings, notes, a child's glove, a pilot's badge, a memorial. Not just for humans, for all who were lost. Even Ruiz's old cap found its place, with a Xanthari crystal beside it, left by a young officer who had heard the story. "I didn't know him," the officer said, "but I know what he did." That night, under the stars, Ilara stood alone on the outer deck. The rift entity floated in the distance, calm now, like a guardian at the edge of the world. Threll joined her. "You changed everything," he said. She shook her head. "No, we just reminded you of something you forgot." "What?" "That no life is small, that every voice matters, that even in the dark, kindness is a kind of strength." Threll looked at the stars. "We spent millions of years building empires, perfect systems, flawless logic." He turned to her. "But you, in just a few days, showed us what it means to be alive." Ilara smiled. "We're not perfect. We never will be. We'll keep making mistakes. We'll fight. We'll cry. We'll break." She looked back at the station, at the lights still on, at the people still working, still healing, but we'll also care. And as long as we do, we'll keep rising. Thrall was silent. Then, slowly, he placed a crystal glowing soft blue at the base of the railing. A gift, he said, from the Concord. Not of power, not of war, but of memory. Alara touched it. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and in that moment, standing between Earth and the stars, between pain and peace, between alien and human, she knew the truth. The universe does not need perfect heroes. It needs hearts that dare to reach out, even when they're broken. And that night, for the first time in history, an alien and a human stood side by side, not as master and servant, not as strong and weak, but as equals, watching the same stars, breathing the same hope, and daring to believe in a future they would build. The sky above Sol Station was no longer on fire. The war had ended, but the healing had just begun. Across the broken station, humans and aliens moved, side by side, not in ranks, not in uniforms, but as people. A Xanthari medic used her light field to seal a cracked wall. A Vaith cloud gently cooled a failing reactor. An Orcith engineer, once proud and distant, now knelt in the dust, helping a human child tie her boot. No one gave orders, no one needed to. They just helped, in the remains of the old school dome. Sunlight poured through shattered glass, painting golden lines across the floor. Desks were broken, books were burned, but in the center of the room, a small circle had formed. Children, human and alien, sitting together. One of them, a little girl named Mia, stood up. She was 7. Her arm was in a sling. Her face was smudged with dirt, but her eyes were bright dot. She held a drawing in her hands, crayon on paper. It showed a spaceship, a star, and 2 figures holding hands. One had 2 legs. The other looked like a floating cloud. She looked at the others and said, "I want to say something." Silence fell. Even the adults nearby stopped working. Ilara Voss leaned against a broken pillar, watching. Thrall stood at the edge, his crystal form still, listening. Mia took a breath. "My mom died when the lights went out," she said, voice small, but clear. "I was scared. I thought no one would come." She looked down at her drawing. "But then, a man in a dirty suit pulled me out. He didn't know me, but he carried me all the way to the med bay. And he kept saying, 'You're gonna be okay. I promise.'" She looked up. "His name was Leo. He's not a hero. He's just a person." Then she turned to the alien children. "And then you came. The floating one shared its air with me. The shiny one fixed my toy. The long one sang me a song, in a voice like wind." She held up the drawing. "You don't look like me. You don't talk like me. But you cared." Her voice cracked. "So I drew this. To say thank you." No one spoke. Then, slowly, a young Vaith child, a small cloud of soft light, floated forward. It had no mouth, no face, but it pulsed once, gently, and placed a tiny crystal beside Mia's drawing. A gift. Then another child stepped forward, a Xanthari boy, tall and quiet. He placed a small light bead in her hand. "For courage," he said. One by one they came. No grand speeches, no treaties, just a circle of children, broken and brave, building something new from the ruins of the old. Later, in the command chamber, the leaders of the Concord gathered again. But this time, it was different. No cold chairs, no glowing screens of war, just a table, and tea, and silence that wasn't tense, but thoughtful. Thrall broke it. "We have reviewed the data," he said. "The rift entity. It was not a weapon. It was a being displaced, injured, trying to communicate. And for centuries, we ignored it, called it a threat, a flaw in space." He looked at Alara. "But your people, you saw it." Mira nodded. "We didn't have the best tech, but we listened. Not with machines, with hearts." Jocks, sitting with his feet up, grinned. "Turns out, singing a lullaby to a space monster, is very human. Laughter rose, soft, real, unexpected. Then Vera spoke, her voice like wind through trees. We believed emotion made you weak, but it was your strength. You feel pain deeply. You love fiercely. You grieve. And then you keep going. She paused. We do not grieve. We do not love. Not like you. Ilara looked at her. Don't you want to? Vera shimmered. We never thought it could be good. Kira stepped in. It's not always good. It hurts. It breaks you. But it also makes you real. Silence again. Then Threll stood. I speak for the Concord, he said. And today, we make a new rule. Not of law, of spirit. He looked at each of them. From this day forward, we will listen before we judge. We will ask before we act, and when we see something we do not understand, we will not destroy it. He turned to Ilara. We will learn from you. That night, under the stars, the rift entity pulsed once slow, deep, like a heartbeat, and from Soul Station, a single note played. Mira had opened the combs. She played the lullaby again, and from the dark, the entity answered, not in sound, but in light, a soft glow, a thank you. Ilara stood at the edge, watching Jax join her. Think they'll really change? She smiled. Not all at once, but they've started. He nodded. All it took was one broken ship, one scared girl, one lullaby. She looked at the stars, at Earth, far away, at the endless sky. At the end of the day, she said, the universe isn't ruled by power, or speed, or perfect logic. She pointed to the school dome, where children still laughed. It's ruled by the ones who still believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the courage of a child who dared to speak first. Asterisk, 1 year after the battle, the stars above Seoul Station no longer remembered war. The wreckage was gone. The scars on the station's hull had been repaired, not perfectly, but with care. New gardens grew in the observation domes, real soil, real plants, real earth flowers reaching toward artificial sunlight. Children ran through the halls, laughing, drawing on walls, building toy ships from scrap metal, and in the center of it all, a new monument stood, not of stone, not of metal, but of light, a tall, glowing pillar made from 1,000 small pieces, a Zenthari crystal, a human dog tag, a Vaith misgem, an Orcith songstone, a child's drawing, a pilot's glove, a single note of music frozen in energy. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, not loud, not proud, but steady. And at its base, 3 simple words, we are together. On a quiet morning, Ilara Voss walked through the new Peace Garden. She wore no uniform, just a simple jacket, with the Earth's patch still on the shoulder. Her hair was a little grayer, her steps a little slower, but her eyes, they still burned with quiet fire. Behind her, Jox limped along, using a cane made from Odyssey wiring. Still can't believe they named the new medbay after you, he said, grinning. Commander Voss Memorial Wing has a nice ring. She rolled her eyes. I'm not dead, Jox, yet, he added. But you should be. That jump through the rift. Pure insanity. Myra walked up, holding a data pad. Not insanity, she said. Faith. Ilara stopped, looked at her friends. It wasn't just Faith. It was us. All of us. The ones who ran into fire. The ones who sang lullabies to monsters. The ones who held hands when the lights went out. She looked up, through. The dome Earth hung in the sky. Small, blue, fragile. I used to think saving it meant shields and weapons, she said. But maybe, it just means never stopping caring. That afternoon, the first joint council meeting of the new Concord began. No grand thrones, no cold silence. Just a circle of chairs, human and alien, under the open sky of Soul Station. Threll spoke first. His voice was no longer sharp, but warm. We have rebuilt our fleets. restored our systems. But the greatest change is not in our ships. It is in our minds. He turned to Alara. You taught us that strength is not in never falling. It is in rising again and again for someone else. Vera floated forward. We now train our young not only in logic, but in empathy, in listening, in feeling. Seychelle uncoiled slowly, and we have opened the rift for study, not with weapons, but with words, with music, with respect. Then, a small figure stepped forward, Mia, the girl who had spoken. First, she didn't say much, just handed each leader a drawing, the same picture she had made a year ago. The spaceship, the star, the two hands, one human, one alien, holding tight. This is what peace looks like, she said, and one by one, the leaders took it and held it, like it was the most important thing in the universe. That night, Alara stood, alone on the outer deck. The Rift Entity hovered in the distance, calm like a guardian watching over a child. Mira joined her. They're calling it the Watcher now. A protector of the frontier. Alara smiled. Funny, we thought it was the monster. Turns out, it was the one who needed saving. Jox limped up, holding 3 cups of terrible coffee, and we were the dumb ones who did it. They laughed, then silence. Just the stars. The quiet hum of the station, the soft pulse of the light monument in the distance. Mira whispered, "Do you think we changed them?" Alara looked at the sky, at the ships flying in peace, at the children sleeping safely, at the handshakes that had replaced weapons. "I think," she said, "we reminded them of something they forgot, that no matter how far you fly, no matter how advanced you become, you still need heart." She turned to her friends. We didn't win because we were strong. We didn't win because we were smart. We won because we cared when no one else would. And as the first light of Sol's dawn touched the station, as the stars began to fade, as a single note of the old lullaby played over the comms, Elara Voss whispered the words that would echo across galaxies, not in anger, not in pride, but in quiet, unbreakable truth. We are not the loudest, we are not the fastest, we are not even the smartest, but we are the ones who never stop reaching out, even in the dark, even when we're broken, even when no one else believes. And that is why the universe will always need humanity.